Hi, and welcome to this episode of In Search of Courage and Meaning. I'm Abby King. I'm a healer, a body worker, and mainly, I'm a human being searching for courage and meaning in this wacky world. And on my path and in my search, I'm having a ball talking to fellow humans about how meaning and courage is showing up for them in their life with a hope that these conversations can inspire you guys to live more from your heart and find courage and meaning in your own life. So today I have with me Andrew Newman. And off the bat, Andrew, I would like you to introduce yourself and what do you want us to know about you?
Hey Abby, such a great conversation talking about courage and meaning, and it had me reflecting deeply. Clearly, I'm from Texas, but originally in Cape Town. You hear the accent, um, and I'm a healer. I specialize in creativity coaching because my world has gone from a family business to this conscious bedtime stories. And I couldn't have dreamed it. I wouldn't have known it was going to come. And there were many little steps and big steps along the way that really align with my search for meaning and my need to summon up my own courage. So this is going to be a great conversation.
So thank you for that, because now you're leading me to the next question, which is not just what does courage in life mean to you, but if you're okay with sharing, how has it shown up for you in your life?
Mm, yeah. Um, hey, it's shown up like really awkwardly. I'm serious. It's like the moments that I need the most courage tend to be the most awkward moments. I think back to, leaving a family business, which was 4 generations,
Mm,
was something that took a great deal of courage. But how it looked was my body giving me a lot of symptoms and feedback saying I gotta go and me not listening for a whole lot of time, not yet having a language or knowing what was going on.
Do
And
you mind saying like what symptoms, for example?
um, I had sinus challenges for a long time. I had uh, prostate-ish challenges. I don't know, like discomfort in the pelvic bowl. And then I had back pain.
Mm,
And actually, all of those things led me to going to seek medical advice because that was what I knew at the time. And the morning after spinal surgery, I said to my dad, I'm never coming back to work for you.
wow.
But that's what it took to get the words out of my mouth, right?
Wow.
And for me to get this clarity of oh, I just now got to. I got to. And it's like sometimes, and this is it, sometimes that's what courage looks like. It felt like. I don't think I felt courageous one little bit at the
Right.
time. Um, yeah, so it's this dance between self-belief, which I didn't feel very much connected to at the time, belief in my own birthright to have my freedoms, to go and express myself, to not follow the family lineage, to, step out into the world, to trust myself that I could earn a living somewhere other than being a jeweler in South Africa. And yeah, courage and the unknown seem to have a pretty strong relationship with each other in my experience.
So true, because the taking that step is stepping into the unknown. And so I'm curious. So you said I'm not coming back to work for you.
Hmm.
And then what? I mean, did you have a plan B or did you just like take that leap into off the precipice?
No, I took the leap. I took the leap. I actually needed to step into the unknown. There's been a number of times when I've done that. I've actually built a relationship with doing that.
Hold
I'm,
it, pause.
yeah,
Stay on this one for a second because that
yeah.
feels really, really important because I think the tendency to be so scared of it that we're so uncomfortable, we try to avoid it for dear life. But you're saying, what does it mean to develop relationship with that stepping into the unknown for you, obviously?
Um, Abby, that's always followed my creativity. So I find that as a creative impulse arises in me to do something, and it might be, hey, I'm gonna go travel to a place I don't know. I've actually sat down on a sidewalk a couple of times to test the goodness of humanity by putting out a sign and doing some things. You know, once it was to try and find a place to sleep when I didn't have a place to sleep in London. I wasn't in dire straits. I could have paid for a hotel, um, but I was at a spiritual gathering with Amma, who does the hugging guru, and I thought somebody in the community might adopt me for a night. That's what the sign said. It said adopt me for a night. Couch needed one night only. And then to see what happens. Like, will the world respond? I had a profound experience doing that. The person who I went home with wasn't the guy who had a car that I thought, or a nice house that I thought. He was a guy who had been homeless most of his life and had never had an apartment in which he could host someone. I was the first person he ever hosted. And I had asked for a spot on the floor, and true as God, that's what I got. A spot on the floor. It was nothing, it was bare bones in there. And it was like I had to meet the unfolding moment and realize, as fears came up, going, oh my God, why are we on a night bus traveling across London? And where am I going with this person I don't know? Into the true arms of God that were really holding me in that moment and leading to this profound connection that's so memorable for me with this man David.
Wow, I love that so much. I mean, talk about leaps of faith. And I want to backpedal for a second to this moment where it sounds like your body has like been shouting at you to do something else with your life, and it took the spinal surgery to really shake you up and be
Mm,
able to say to your dad, no more. So what happened then?
mm. Well, the question that I started to live into, which is a question of meaning in a way, was not what do I want to do, which is how everything had been framed inside of me
Mm,
up to that age, but how do I want to be?
mm,
And I was following this fact that I have a very loving family, but yo, I got some quirks, and they're missing some emotional language, like most of it, the emotional language. and and I was like, I didn't really know how to hug. I remember at an age I had to learn how to hug because it was like this didn't come naturally in our family, and so that was when my search for purpose really started to evolve in me. Along the way, I was very grateful. The first healer I ever went to, I only went to because someone had whispered to me at a dinner party that she could tell me about my purpose and my purpose. And I was like, so that's why I'm like, hey, I'm here. What do I do? And
mm.
can you just tell me? And really, what I thought purpose was just tell me where I submit my resume so that I can retire in about 5 years after having made millions.
Interesting.
I would have been very happy with that as a purpose. And
In
she did.
theory, in theory, you would have been happy with that.
Yes, this was my belief about
Yeah.
myself at the time. And she actually took one look at me and said, well, you can be a healer. And I was like, a what? How? How does that work? What do you mean? And she's just like, if you're ever around someone, and this I think this is human counsel for every human being. If you're
Hmm.
ever around someone who's having a hard time, just make sure to reach out and just put a hand, you know, and that could be enough. That might be all you ever do, she said. She said, if you choose to study it, great. If you don't, just do that.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, oh, it's like even sharing that, as in this moment, it touches me because the simplicity of it is so beautiful, and it's true that she was seeing me,
Mm,
and I don't think anybody else in my world had yet kind of said something just that was as honoring as that to my nature.
wow.
Hmm.
Yeah, it's so beautiful what you're saying because I find for myself too, it's we don't trust the simplicity. And in a way, it's like, I see you.
Hmm.
I see you. It's so profound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a moment of courage to receive it, right? When somebody actually in front of me said this thing to me, and then it was like, am I going to dismiss it? Does my body have the space to receive it? Do I yet, can that little one grain of truth come on in a way that I'm going to hold it and nurture it um and follow it?
Right.
Uh, this was the first book that I wrote in the kids collection is a book called A Little Light, and uh, that one there, and I was sitting on a hillside in Scotland and with my journal, and I just wrote a poem, and it needed some pictures, and I had a friend who did some doodles,
Mhm.
and and I was so protective over this. I said to Rosie, her name is, I said, look, you can't share it with anybody. I don't want anybody to know what we're working on. Um, just you and me. This is the story. And we worked very slowly because she charged £10 an hour and I earned £10 an hour. And um, I needed to be extremely protective over it.
Is that because you needed to be extremely protective of you?
Yeah. I wasn't ready for feedback.
Mm.
I sincerely just wasn't ready for feedback. Feedback was something that I learned very late in life. It wasn't part of the atmosphere. I had rules as a kid, but I didn't have feedback. I didn't have people lovingly come in and say, "Hey, I just want to encourage you to go in this direction."
Right.
And uh, so I learned in my journey at healing school, which was a whole adventure, that at times I needed to protect my own self-expression. And what I
Mm.
wanted more than anything else was to express myself.
Mm.
But what had happened in my world was every time I did that, the world said, "Get back in your box." And if
Hold
that's
it. The world said that, or your inner critic said that?
Oh no, the world had said that. I mean, that
Okay.
became my inner critic.
Hmm.
But the world of apartheid, South Africa, the way control looked, the my parents' limited ability to affirm me,
Right. Right. Right.
was
Right.
was really met in a rule-based space, and and so self-expression became extremely risky,
Mm. Mm.
and so to even go from an inner idea to words on a page had risk and courage involved in it.
Wow.
And so to share those words on a page with someone or someone else and face them not loving it,
Hmm.
like entirely loving it, was more than I could bear.
So keeping that in mind, what helped you actually birth it? Because it sounds like there's so much against you
Mm,
to actually allow it out. What actually helped you not quit on this and
mm,
persevere through?
mm. Um, I got some restorative experiences in the healing school space when I trained
Okay.
with Barbara Brennan. I started to have um, new experiences of what love was and how it looked
Hmm.
and showed up. And that gave me that gave me the just that little crack in the door that I could peer around or step through for a moment and still come back and be behind the safety of it. And in a way, that's what I did with the book, is I stayed behind the safety of the door. We created it, and then time, over
Mm,
time, and then I really got to very carefully curate who were the first people to read it.
interesting. That's a
And
nice safety mechanism to take, many steps forward.
yeah, yeah. And then I sh and then it became time softened it a lot for me. There was a moment where it was like it had actually, all of a sudden you could read it and like it or read it and not like it, and it wasn't so personal. It wasn't so close inside of me. It wasn't all about you not liking me because the comma's in the wrong place
Right.
on page 12. It's like but that was the level of my sensitivity. And um, I also learned along the way to let the first spark of creativity live unedited.
Mm.
And I want to say that, to me, that takes immense courage, because you asked me a second ago about the inner critic and the inner voices, and it's like those inner voices are so ready to jump on the first creative impulse, and you go, I wrote a poem, and then you're like, damn, nope, not that, not that, not sharing it. Never mind. We'll just put the poem away. We'll forget it that we ever wrote it. Um,
So,
uh,
so, so in that respect, what would you, excuse me, um, what would you tell other people who are trying to allow their creativity coming out, especially since you work with people who are trying to voice themselves creatively?
well, do the voicing, do the protecting for as long as you need to protect.
Hmm.
Um, if you have to close the door, close the door. But
Mm.
get to meet your own flow and your own impulse, until what will happen is it will start taking you somewhere.
Mm.
I mean, there's stories in this collection here that I could say I didn't write. It became a moment where the pen would, there's a little knocking on the inside that says, "Go get your pen.
Aha.
We've got a story for you." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Oh." I mean, I read the boy who searched for silence. I'd done a 4-day silent retreat. I wasn't even thinking about writing a book. I
Wow.
didn't know. At that stage, I had 4 little books that were hobbies. Um, I didn't know this was going to become a thing.
Mm. So it
And
sounds like there's a lot of surrendering and trusting and not being in the way.
yeah, I'd add listening.
Listening.
And I would add these things: fingers and hands. Like, hands do things. Like, watch what they reach for. Like, watch what they can hold and create.
Mm.
When I'm one of my hobbies is woodwork, and then I love to go into wood shop, not necessarily knowing what's happening, and my hands pick up the pieces of wood and feel them, and there's texture, and then there's a tool I'm learning about, and the next thing I'm shaping something, and it's like I don't know where it's going, but I've come to know that my hands and my being can work something out that my head doesn't yet know about.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
And it's so interesting, um, to take it back kind of a full circle from that point in your life where, your body was shouting, you can't do this anymore, to what you're talking about now, this allowing the creative impulse to lead the way and you're kind of following it. Um, how is life now?
oh, so rich. So, I mean, my world is creative, and I get to be in that all the time. On the days that I forget that, I suffer. Um,
Mm,
so, but I have immediate access to the medicine that I need, which is like, which for me is my pen, and I can
mm,
pick that up at any moment, and it can lead me to grace, it can lead grace to me. It can enrich my world because my writing poetically, whenever I journal, it's not like I did this today, I did that today, I did that today. It becomes a poem that atmospherically adds to the sequence of the day.
Yeah.
And I get to travel a lot, which is some stages wonderful and other times completely destabilizing. Um, I I get to help people, which
Mm,
I find, I mean, there's no greater privilege than leaning in with another human who's brave enough and courageous enough to share their longings, what's what their hopes are, what they're being called to, and who need support with those steps. And I have those people for me,
yeah.
which is wonderful. And then I get to be that for others. And um, I just also want to normalize, though, in all this richness, I get scared,
Mm,
I get lost, I don't know what the next step is.
right.
Um, I have how that looks for me is like struggle with place. I have a very interesting life, almost lifelong struggle so far with place. I stay in wonderful places and then I leave, and then why did I leave? And then I don't know where I'm going, and then I'm like, oh, and I have quite a lot of I have a little anxious neurotic disposition that comes up, and then I'm like, and then I need like, and then where's my courage? And I don't know what to do, and I can't find it, and then I write, and then I create, and then I wait and I allow time,
Yeah, it's
and then
almost like the help against you. Like something that is against you that will help you have some friction with life so that there can be growth. So
yeah,
maybe your shtick is like, where do I want to be? Where do I want to be?
right.
Is it
Took
here? Is it here?
it took 15 years, 15 to 20 years coming out of the jewelry business for the emergence of my work in the world.
Mm,
The clarity that Conscious Bedtime Stories was not just a little hobby that I was making a few books, that it was actually an expression of my healership, that it was my to to really, really important, and enough internally and externally for me to center my life in.
mm,
Uh, and so patience has been important at times, and I think it's one of the most courageous things is to be patient. I
yeah.
suck at it. Um,
Me too.
I'm like, no, no, now. Um,
Yeah.
and then I don't suck at it, and then I'm like, oh, and like, oh, okay.
So let me ask you something really big. What do you think this life is all about? I mean, you've spoken about so many important things: purpose, meaning, courage, difficulties, going through, creativity, coming out. I know it's a big question. What is the meaning of life? But what is for you?
Hmm. Um, I get a, I'm. This isn't meant to sound biblical, but it has overtones, and that is it is to know yourself,
Mm,
and some of the Kabbalistic narrative certainly would be that the whole reason for creation in the creation story of the creation myth was for for God to withdraw from a space so that God could re-enter and know self. Um,
right.
and that's what I think creativity allows us to do.
Mm,
In a way, I'm exploring the meeting space between psychology, spirituality, and creativity. And I think that psychology is and mindfulness are things that you can explore and do, but I think creativity is who you are, and this can be applied in preparing dinner tonight. It's not,
right,
it's not just like you have to get a paintbrush out or
right.
a pen or play the piano. Although those are wonderful places we can draw closer to ourselves and feel ourselves expressing. Um,
Like tap into the flow.
right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and we seem to like learning seems to be a thing that constantly happens, and but self-expression is something that's constantly happening, and we can do it the way we've always done it, or we can tweak it a little and do it a little different each time. And if you find yourself telling the same story the same way, change the ending.
I love that. So this is actually brings me to my last question, which might might be already that answer, but if you can have people understand one thing or like have the one message, not the one message, but like the one thing that you would really want people to understand that will really help them in life and in their own search,
Hmm.
what would that be?
It is your birthright to express yourself.
Mm,
You're absolutely what you are born with the freedom and permission to do. We the world need you to express yourself and to share your heart, to create what it is that you're passionate about creating. That's uh, there's no greater purpose than that.
mm-hmm.
And I come back so often when I'm working with clients and I share like, hey, this is your birthright to do this. There's this little moment of like, huh? What? Oh, 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 yes. And I'd forgotten because the world forgot to tell me.
Mm.
And so if I can share that with you today, and it's like, and just I'll tell you that as many times as you need to hear it. It's like like please, 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 this is just
Yes, big yes. And thank you for showing up with me here today and saying that, because hopefully that is a reminder for everybody who has forgotten that that is available for them if they allow.
yeah, yeah. And take the
Mhm.
support you need until your system learns to remember on a sustained basis.
Right.
It's that's what I needed. I needed a whole reorientation of being around people who really remembered this for me and were able
Yeah.
to in not in that language, just keep saying, yep, yep, you, Andrew, welcome, Andrew. I'm like, what, really? I'm welcome? Yeah, come on, welcome me. I'm still welcome. Yeah, you're still welcome. Well, August, no, welcome. Oh, oh yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm feeling that sigh. Almost
Mm.
like a sigh of relief also for me. It's like, oh, I'm allowed to be myself, you know. Thank you so much for all your wisdom and sharing today. Really, really, really. And I'm going to, for anybody who's listening, I'm going to put a link to Andrew's website so you can follow his work and see all the good he is bringing to our world.
Hmm. Yeah, come and visit sometime. Love to hear from you, to hear what
Yeah,
you're creating in your world.
there you go. An invitation. Thank you so much.
My great pleasure. Thanks, Abby.
Thank you so much for being with us today. If you like what you heard, please subscribe to my channel and help spread the love so that we can reach more human beings who might want some inspiration to live more courageously and authentically, and to learn more about my work and how I help women in their midlife reclaim their sense of purpose so that the rest of their life can be spent more joyfully, creatively, and more aligned with who they are now. Just hop over to my website. The link is below, and feel free to sign up for my free consultation. I can't wait to hear the vision that you have for yourself.